He was Henry Fonda, a screen legend with resolute eyes, the stature of a hero, and a talent for portraying upright guiding figures. From the resilient farmer Tom Joad to the conscientious juror number 8 in 12 Angry Men, Fonda became a symbol of steadfastness and righteousness in the minds of millions of viewers worldwide. But what happens when the curtain of stage glamour descends? Behind that exemplary commander image was Henry Fonda, a man with deep scars and bitter secrets few knew about. This will be a stark revelation of secrets you could never have imagined. Don't leave your screen. We'll begin shortly. Before we begin, can you comment and tell me what kind of person Henry Fonda is in your eyes? Let's reminisce a little. A portrait of a film legend. Henry Fonda wasn't just an actor. He was an icon, one of the faces that truly defined Hollywood's golden age. With a career that spanned over 50 years, Fonda built a solid image in the minds of audiences, a man of principle, integrity, and inner strength. He possessed a deep gaze, often conveying calmness and trustworthiness, making audiences completely believe in the characters he played. Fonda's roles were often tied to the image of a commander, not necessarily a military general, but a spiritual leader, someone who made important decisions, or simply a person who stood up for what was right. Who could ever forget Tom Joad in the classic film The Grapes of Wrath, 1940? He was the embodiment of the resilience of the oppressed worker, a voice leading hope for those in dire straits. Then there's his most widely praised role, Juror 8, Mr. Davis in 12 Angry Men, 1957. In a stuffy room facing the pressure of the other 11 men, Fonda alone held his ground, carefully analyzing every detail to find justice. He wasn't just a juror. He was the commander of reason, leading others to rethink, ultimately changing the outcome of the case. Through these roles, Henry Fonda cemented his position as a representative face of integrity, reason, and natural leadership. However, Henry Fonda's commander role didn't just stop at the silver screen. During World War II, he genuinely served in the United States Navy. Even though he was already a famous film star and could have stayed in Hollywood to make propaganda films, Fonda firmly insisted on joining the military, explaining that he didn't want to just play at war. He served on the destroyer USS Satterlee DD-626 in the Pacific, participating in important operations and being awarded the Bronze Star Medal and the Navy Commendation Medal. This experience put him in a true command position, facing the harsh challenges of war, something the public was often less aware of in detail. These military experiences, along with his iconic roles, created an image of Henry Fonda as incredibly steadfast and strong. Yet, did those months in the military, or the weight of those commander roles, deeply influence his true self? The bitter truths might just reveal an entirely different side. The scars of war, behind the calm exterior and the image of a steely hero that Henry Fonda so meticulously built on screen, there existed a turbulent inner world filled with personal tragedies. These bitter truths not only shattered the illusion of a perfect man, but also revealed a complex individual haunted by deep wounds and unseen pressures, culminating in an emotional detachment that followed him throughout his life. Henry Fonda's decision to enlist in World War II was admirable, especially considering he was already a celebrated film star and could have easily avoided military service. However, his 4 years serving in the U.S. Navy, particularly his experience in operational intelligence in the Pacific, left deep psychological scars that were hard to heal. Although he rarely spoke about this period in detail, those close to him and historical researchers noticed a clear change in him. Fonda became more private, emotionally withdrawn, and seemed to carry an invisible burden at all times. The experience of being a commander in the brutal environment of war was far more than just playing roles on screen. Their life and death were constantly intertwined. Every decision could affect the lives of comrades, and facing loss and death was unavoidable. While the specifics of his duties remain private, the psychological pressure of being responsible for others' lives and witnessing the grim realities of war undoubtedly reshaped who he was. Today's psychologists might see these as signs of post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD), a mental state that causes individuals to automatically freeze their emotions, avoid intimacy, and frequently live in a state of high alert. The coldness and distance he later displayed, especially with his loved ones, could have been an unconscious defense mechanism preventing him from expressing pain, fear, or even joy, because doing so made him feel vulnerable. Henry Fonda seemed to have brought the battlefield home with him, yet he isolated himself within a strong emotional fortress, allowing no one, not even himself, to breach it. Fractured family relationships. This emotional coldness and distance caused some of the deepest hurts in Fonda's life, especially for his biological children, Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda. Both children, who later became famous actors, have openly shared many times about their strained and fractured relationship with their esteemed father. Henry Fonda was described as a man who found it difficult to express affection. He avoided deep conversations, shied away from any emotional display, and was often mentally absent from his children's lives. Jane Fonda once bitterly likened her father to an iceberg, someone from whom she never felt clear love or support. She struggled throughout her life to gain his approval, an affection he seemed unable or unwilling to give. Jane and Peter often had to face their childhood problems on their own, lacking guidance and warm affection from their father. Peter Fonda, in many interviews, also spoke of a distant father, someone he felt he couldn't truly connect with. These accounts reveal a sad aspect. The man who could inspire millions of viewers failed to convey love to his own children. The family tragedy escalated on April 14, 1950, when his second wife and the mother of Jane and Peter, Frances Ford Seymour, took her own life. Frances's death was a huge shock, but Henry Fonda's reaction afterward was even more shocking and left an indelible scar on his children's hearts. Just a few months earlier, Fonda had confessed to Frances that he wanted a divorce to marry another woman. Severely distraught, and having struggled with mental health issues for years, this shock pushed Frances to the brink. She died by suicide at Craig House Psychiatric Hospital, where she was receiving treatment. Astonishingly, Henry Fonda reportedly concealed the truth about his wife's death from their children. He lied that she passed away from a heart attack and even ordered newspapers delivered to the house to be canceled to ensure Jane and Peter didn't read the news. Not only that, he also forbade them from attending their mother's funeral, holding a private service, with only himself and his mother-in-law present. This action, though, perhaps stemming from a misguided intention to protect his children from the shock, created a wound that never healed, leaving confusion, a feeling of betrayal and persistent pain in the young souls of Jane and Peter. It wasn't until they became adults that they learned the horrific truth about their mother's death and their father's cold reaction. This event created a chasm between Henry Fonda and his children that lasted for decades. Frances's psychiatrist, Dr. Margaret Gibson, later described Henry Fonda as a cold, self-satisfied man, a complete narcissist. Fonda's other marriages, he went through 5 in total, also largely ended in failure, from his brief marriage to Margaret Sullivan, to Frances Seymour, Susan Blanchard, and Afdera Franchetti, before finally finding stability with Shirley May Adams. The repeated failures in his intimate relationships show his inherent difficulty in maintaining deep and stable emotional connections, which may have stemmed from personal trauma and a fear of being hurt. Silent personal struggles. Beyond the scars of war and family fractures, Henry Fonda also silently grappled with other personal struggles that he never openly displayed. He was known as a perfectionist in his work, with incredible control on set, but in his private life he was a man prone to explosive tantrums and strict control in personal relationships, which those close to him had to witness and endure. The origin of this puzzling personality may stem from his childhood. Fonda grew up in a Christian Science family where people believed that illness could be cured by faith and prayer rather than relying on modern medicine. This environment may have contributed to him learning to suppress emotions and pain instead of facing and expressing them. His father was also said to have struggled with depression, which might have influenced how Fonda perceived and dealt with his own emotions. A traumatic event in his youth, witnessing a public lynching near his home, may also have deeply imprinted itself on his mind, contributing to the formation of a reserved and cautious soul. There were periods in his life when he seemed to battle depression or anxiety issues that in his time were rarely openly acknowledged or treated. He isolated himself in books and in his work, trying to avoid intimacy and conversations that required emotional disclosure. Dissatisfaction and bitterness about his personal life may have been kept hidden and bottled up inside him, only surfacing through cold behavior or sudden outbursts of anger. This information revealed decades later, primarily through biographies, the memoirs of Jane Fonda, My Life So Far, and Peter Fonda, Don't Tell Dad, and rare interviews with those who knew him gradually unveiled the mystery. It exposed a Henry Fonda far different from the perfect image on screen, a man trapped by his own wounds, a distant father and husband, and a soul struggling to find peace that perhaps he never fully achieved until his final years when he and his daughter Jane starred together in the film On Golden Pond, a role that reflected their own lives and relationship. These bitter truths are not intended to tarnish Henry Fonda's legacy, but rather to provide a more comprehensive and human portrait of a great individual. They invite us to see him not only through his immortal roles, but also through the very human struggles and mistakes of a person just like any of us. It is the complexity and sometimes the tragedy that truly defines the legend. Impact and a new legacy. Bringing these bitter truths about Henry Fonda to light isn't just about exposing personal struggles. They have reshaped our view of him, transforming him from a mere icon into a more complex and multifaceted human being. The public image of Henry Fonda has always been one of integrity and inner strength. From his role as Juror 8 to his wartime films, he represented the ideal hero. However, revelations about his silent PTSD from the war, his cold distance from his children, and his family tragedy have shattered that perfect monument. Instead of diminishing his legacy, this adds an astonishing human depth. Fonda is no longer a one-dimensional character. He becomes a more complete person with both glory and scars. This helps modern audiences connect more deeply with a legend, recognizing that even the greatest heroes carry their own burdens and hurts. It also opens up a necessary conversation about the psychological impact of war and the pressures of fame on individuals. Henry Fonda's story is a vivid testament to the sometimes harsh gap between a meticulously crafted public image and the reality of personal life. Hollywood can create beautiful illusions about people, but real life is always far more complicated. Fonda was a steadfast commander on screen and a brave soldier in real life. But those experiences seem to have eroded his ability to express emotions, making him distant even from his own family. The lesson here is the need to view people comprehensively and without judgment. Success and fame do not always come with happiness or inner fulfillment. Accepting this truth helps us understand not only Henry Fonda better, but also the nature of being human and the pressures of life in the spotlight. Despite deep fractures, Henry Fonda's legacy also shows significant attempts at healing. The pinnacle was the film On Golden Pond, where he and his daughter Jane Fonda acted together for the first time as father and daughter, reflecting their complex real-life relationship. Though a difficult reconciliation, the film became a symbol of healing through art and understanding. After his passing, Jane Fonda herself, through her memoir, My Life So Far, and various interviews, became the one to truthfully recount her father's story. She didn't shy away from the bitter truths, but also continued to express love and understanding for the burdens her father carried. In this way, Jane and Peter Fonda, not only healed their own wounds but also helped shape a new legacy for Henry Fonda. A legacy not just of a legendary star, but of a person with very human struggles worthy of complete understanding and recognition. Henry Fonda's life is a profound reminder that behind every title, every brilliant spotlight, there is always a human being with all their complexities, hurts, and silent struggles. He was a commander on screen and in life, but it was that role, along with the scars from war and the pressures of fame that shaped a person we only truly began to understand much later. These bitter truths don't dim his legacy. Instead, they paint a more authentic, more human Henry Fonda, a man where tragedy and greatness walk hand in hand. What do you think about these bitter truths about Henry Fonda? Do they change how you see him? Feel free to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next fascinating stories.